You have an immense selection of flavors to choose once you've decided that what you want is a Jeep Wrangler. Today we're sitting in a Jeep Wrangler, and this channel is slowly turning into a Jeep channel, and I'm not doing that on purpose. It just happened to be the one vehicle I have the most consistent access to, and I am actually sitting in a 2022 4xe today with less than 150 miles on the clock. But the point of this video is going to be more about why Jeep Wranglers are so expensive here in 2022. And I do want to say that I'm sorry for the couple week hiatus or few week hiatus. As you guys can see here, broke my hand, unfortunately, a few weeks ago, had to get surgery. So I was a little bit out of commission, but I am back now with one hand ready to make a video. And I want to jump right into, again, why Jeep Wranglers are so expensive as a $300,000 G63 passes me, which is a little bit of foreshadowing. But the point is, cars are expensive right now in general. Obviously, we're dealing with things that I don't even need to get into, like hyperinflation and rising rates and bear markets and all of that fun stuff. But the fact of the matter is the Jeep Wrangler, up until just a few years ago, was a vehicle you could typically pick up brand new for between $30,000 to $50,000-ish, depending on the trim level and the options that you went ahead and got, of which both were quite a bit simpler as well. But with the introduction of this JL in 2018, which is the new generation of Wrangler that we're sitting in today, and then in the last couple years with an influx of new powertrains, as well as even new exciting options and trim levels. So you're more often finding your typical Wranglers around that $50,000 price point and upward. Now, we are currently sitting in a 4xe, and it's also a Rubicon on top of that, loaded up with most of the packages and options you'd like to have. So it already, being a 4xe, comes with the larger 8.4-inch Uconnect screen. It already comes with the LED lighting group, but this particular one also has the leather seats, the steel bumper group, the Sky One Touch, the Gorilla Glass windshield, and the base driver safety that gives you blind spot monitors and parking sensors. Oh, and heated seats and heated steering wheel. So this actually has a good amount of options. It's only really missing the front camera, the tow hitch / auxiliary switches, and the full safety suite that gives you adaptive cruise control. But nonetheless, this puppy clocks in at $71,000 even, which is a whole heck of a lot of money. Now, we'll get into the whole 4xe nature of that, and yes, 4xes do cost a bit more, but also have a tax rebate. Again, we'll get into that in a moment. But the fact of the matter is, we're looking at a lot of Jeeps these days costing people between about $50,000 and $65,000, $70,000, again, depending on which exact trim level and which exact packages and options people add. For instance, while I think that a regular Willys, that's the more souped up Willys, I guess, with an Extreme Recon package is a tremendous value at the end of the day and is a great Jeep kind of out of the box. But if we're talking about Rubicons, people are typically spending about 60 grand these days. And then again, a 4xe closer to 70 now if it's loaded up as a Rubicon, maybe closer to 60 as a Sahara. And then 392s are just in a whole nother stratosphere. But the point still stands. If you want a loaded Rubicon with all the features and amenities that this particular one has, the price you got to pay is somewhere in that $60,000 to $70,000 range, depending on the exact trim level you go with and the exact engine you go with. Now, as I mentioned, the 4xe does qualify for a $7,500 federal tax incentive, but even as a fully spec'd up Pentastar V6 Rubicon made to be identical to this, you're paying about $66,000, $67,000. It's not like you're paying a whole lot less than this just to not be a 4xe. And that's not even considering the 392s, which again, start at basically 80 grand. If you tack on a few options, can easily be mid 80s. So we're talking about a whole lot of money for Jeeps these days. Now, I will admit that if you're willing to drive a 2-door manual, super base Willys Sport Wrangler with manual door locks, manual windows, manual mirrors, basically no amenities at all, nothing that this vehicle has, then yeah, you can probably get out the door about $35,000 in a brand new Jeep. And that's kind of the beauty of the Wrangler. Now more than ever, you have an immense selection of flavors to choose once you've decided that what you want is a Jeep Wrangler. It's not so simple as I want a Jeep Wrangler. It's like I want a 2-door, a 4-door, I want a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 4xe, diesel, I want a V8. No, I want to get a Rubicon, I want a Willys, I want a base sport, I want a high altitude, then I want Sky One Touch, now I want a fabric top, I want a plastic hard top, body color fenders, not body color fenders, leather seats, cloth seats. I mean, the list goes on. Then it's safety features, heated seats, bigger screen, smaller screen, better audio. I mean, it just really goes on. And that allows for you to really pick out the exact Jeep Wrangler you want at a price that ideally you're comfortable with. But you got to recognize that much like a Porsche 911, while the Wrangler is a both ubiquitous and desirable vehicle, and while it's also a vehicle that's very much so stayed true to form, you know, it hasn't changed a lot since its inception. It is a vehicle that you can buy for half the price of, meaning it's a vehicle that you can buy a version of for like less than half the price of a different version of, just like a 911. I mean, a 911, you could buy a base Carrera right now for just under 100 grand, and you could buy a GT3 Touring that looks to the average person almost identical for over 2 times that. Same thing goes for buying a base Unlimited Willys Sport for just under 40 grand and buying a 392 Unlimited for about 80 grand. And since Jeep is no longer offering the Extreme Recon for some reason on 392s, at least here in 2022 for this model year, they're separated by 1 inch of tire, about 1 inch and a half of suspension difference. And yeah, I mean, painted fenders and it looks nicer, but again, you can't expect the average person to really notice much of that, especially on, let's say, a black colored vehicle. It just looks exactly the same. The only giveaway is when you turn on the 392, it sounds like an absolute beast, and 4 or 6 cylinder Willys is gonna sound like nothing. So it's important to recognize that this isn't a vehicle for showing off, but it is a vehicle that you can pick your exact flavor of, and that's a super exciting aspect of a Jeep. I'm a big fan of the 4xe because of that federal tax rate or federal tax incentive that makes both buying and leasing these super attractive right now, as well as gives you some of that electric driving that we're currently enjoying. I mean, the engine hasn't been on once during this video. We're not using a single drop of this hyper expensive Californian gas. And on top of all of that, it comes with a bunch of stuff standard. It comes with the LED lighting group, and it comes with the bigger screen, audio system, all that standard. All you really got to tack on, as I did on my personal 4xe, which I can link up to above, is the leather seats and like some body painted panels, and you're kind of set. The only shame is that you can't get the 4xe yet, at least with the Extreme Recon package, which means 35s straight from the factory. I went ahead and added 35s to mine, which I think has transformed the look a bit and made it look a bit more aggressive than this particular one right here does, but still a Rubicon, and it still looks pretty sweet. Now, one thing I will mention to end on a very strong yet concise note, the car market is crazy. Look, in the beginning of this video, we saw a G63, which currently sell for between $250,000 and $300,000 new, which is over sticker, of course, but also ridiculously expensive and overpriced in my opinion. But with a G63 costing nearly $300,000, you can't be so surprised that a decent Wrangler costs you about $60,000, $70,000, I guess. It's wild that that's the auto or car market we're currently living in and making our purchases in, I guess. But it is just the reality right now. This is like an exploding segment, this kind of SUV / adventure vehicle, off-roading vehicle. And this, along with the Bronco, the Defender, and so on and so forth, are all just killing the segment and killing the car market in general. So I guess I ought to get my hands, or at least right now my one hand, on both a Bronco and a Defender and review them, compare them to the Jeep, because they're both kind of actually more expensive than this, at least again in the practical senses. Certainly the Bronco sells for above retail, which is practically more expensive than this. But yeah, I mean, it's just exciting to be in a Jeep as always. Sky One Touch open. It's just crazy that a Jeep like this is a $70,000+ vehicle. As I'm passing another pretty souped up 4xe, kind of similar to what mine looked like originally stock, although not a Sky One Touch. Yeah, Jeeps are super fun and always a blast. They just cost a lot of money depending on how you want to option them these days. So on that note, good luck picking out the exact Jeep you want, picking the exact flavor, special edition, tire package, trim, roof, whatever that you like, but you kind of can't go wrong as long as you buy something that you can afford, and as long as you buy something that matches your lifestyle and what you want to get out of the vehicle. They are fun, and I guess in these crazy car times, actually these 4x's are a pretty good value. Actually one of the best values, I think, in the whole car market, lease-wise at least. So with that said, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting me as I get back to making these videos with this broken hand, and hopefully in a matter of weeks or at least a month or two, I am back to my 100% normal self, albeit with a scar on my hand from the surgery. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. New videos are dropping every single week on Fridays. Comment down below, let me know what you guys want to see. I'll do my best to make it happen. As always, this is Rio.